What's going on, guys? Agent Jim Shorts coming at you with another video for yins today. If you guys haven't already figured it out, I'm a total TV and movie nut. And through the past several months, I've continued to binge and watch through tons of movies and shows like never before. Throughout this binge, I found myself rewatching the Sam Raimi Spider-Man Trilogy. I loved this series growing up. The 7-year-old me thought Tobey Maguire was the coolest person alive. That being said, I've always been unsure of how I felt about the series as a whole, especially as an adult. As a teenager, I saw Andrew Garfield's attempt to play the webhead, and later on I was introduced to the fun-loving Tom Holland, taking his crack at the web-slinger. With both of these series, I always remember thinking back to the Sam Raimi Trilogy and how much I loved it. But the cynic in me always thought this was just my nostalgia and that I had a warped view of this original trilogy. I basically wrote myself off and just assumed that I was being irrational in my fond memories of this franchise. That all led us to this past month. I was home ordering pizza from Papa John's with my lady, and we were debating about what to watch when we ate our za. She loves the MCU, but never watched any other superhero movies other than those. That being said, I suggested we watch the series and start with Spider-Man 1. Surprisingly to me, she put up a bit of a fight. She said that she hates, quote, old movies? Wow, 2002 is old now? My god, I'm freaking ancient. But anyway, after some bribing her with some Papa John's cookies, she agreed to watch it with me. This particular situation made me really excited. She could act as my benchmark. She was a casual fan who'd never seen this series before, so as an adult I could get to watch it again and see how I felt about it as well as someone who's never seen it before. This was the perfect litmus test, and after our pizza and cookies got there, we started to watch. Also, if you like the content I've been putting out, I'd really appreciate if you could take a second to like and subscribe. It really means the world to me and it helps the channel grow. But anywho, enough of that. Okay, I'm gonna do the cardinal sin of movie reviews and spoil my review. My spoiler is that I actually loved Spider-Man 1. Yeah, not liked. I loved it, and I was really surprised. Let's get into why. The first thing I must say about this movie is that I actually really like Tobey Maguire. I know, that's crazy. In my head, I've always ranked the Peter Parkers in the order of Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and then Tobey Maguire. Now, I still may give the edge to Tom Holland as the best acted Spider-Man, but all of a sudden, Tobey Maguire is right on his tail and is the legitimate contender for the top spot. I know this may sound surprising and many of you may be scoffing at me and thinking I'm insane, but the one thing that I think I often overlooked is just how relatable and real Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is. He's just a nobody kid from Queens who didn't have any friends and is just trying to figure out his place in the world. That's so real and relatable. He has no big dreams of being famous and joining the Avengers or becoming a genius scientist. He just had simple dreams of going to college and being a photographer and just working up the nerve to talk to that cute girl next door. While I know it's always awkward when movies cast people in their late 20s to be high school kids, I still think this version of Peter is super down to earth and a really good way of portraying him, despite these flaws. Outside of the character of Peter, there's another thing I really noticed that really took me aback. When we think of this trilogy, we always think of this silly and corny, funny Sam Raimi films that were just kind of a fun thing before the MCU came out. But after this watch, I gotta say, I really think these movies are way more serious and intense than a lot of MCU movies. Now, I hear you in the comments saying, what the hell are you talking about? But please bear with me on this, I really think there's something here. This Spider-Man story deals with wonderful character building, and that character building really plays on your emotions. I genuinely found myself tearing up when Peter found Uncle Ben dying on the sidewalk, despite Tobey Maguire's horribly god-awful crying face. But that aside, this scene really touched me. It made me think of my own life and my own loved ones that I've lost. A good story and good characters in any medium do that. They make you want to put yourself in the protagonist's shoes and think, what would I do in this situation? How would I feel if my father figure was dying and it's my fault? Those types of emotional questions really drive home this very touching and heartfelt narrative. While we have plenty of light and silly in this movie, we also have tragedy and darkness that gives this film real weight, and it makes the happier and lighter feeling times that much more rewarding because we've seen what they're worth. Staying in that realm of how I felt this movie was heavier than a lot of MCU films, growing up I never knew that Sam Raimi came from a horror film background. I'm not really a director snob. While I do have several I really like and respect, I don't follow all their exploits closely. That being said, after I discovered Sam's background, his horror fingerprints became abundantly obvious in this film. He has such an amazing knack for building suspense and tension within a scene, and that can turn a rather bland and a mundane kidnap scene into a terrifying scene that makes you jump out of your seat. I think these elements can really be seen throughout the trilogy. Just wait till we get to Doc Ock in the next review. But I really think that this concept is exemplified in the final battle between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. Peter is at the end of his rope. Just moments ago, he thought the love of his life was gonna die, and the next thing you know, he's thrown into this graveyard-looking place and getting the shit beat out of him by the Goblin. The three moments that really stand out for me in this scene that I want to highlight are Peter getting his face blown up, the Goblin tearing through this web, and then the final glider scene and the eventual death of Norman Osborn. All three of these moments really show Raimi at his best in making a gruesome, unsettling, intense scene that really adds weight to this film. Lastly, we gotta look at the love story. Peter and MJ are destined to be together. Peter actually tells you this at the beginning of the movie. I think this love story is way more crucial to the film than I'd ever given it credit for. This love story ties all the other elements together in a cohesive and satisfying way. The humor is better when Peter has someone he's trying to impress and is failing miserably. The characters are more alive because they have strong emotional attachments to one another. And these horror scenes are even more apparent because we feel with Peter and understand that he has something to lose. This movie masterfully weaves all of these varying elements together via the string that is this love story. And to put the icing on the cake, they even subvert your expectations. Star Wars fans, please take a deep breath and relax. We're not talking about Rian Johnson right now. The Last Jedi is over, we can move on. But anyway, they don't simply end with Peter running off with the girl. Instead, they show real growth on Peter's part. Instead of just being selfish like he was at the beginning of the movie, he decides to be selfless and put Mary Jane's safety above his happiness. This really shows us as the audience how he's actually decided to understand his uncle's moniker, with great power comes great responsibility, and he's gonna live by those words. I think this origin story is so iconic and well told, it's still the gold standard for origin stories today. I know many of you may not agree with this, and that's really okay. We all have our personal preferences. Speaking of such, I bet you think I forgot to mention how my lady felt about this movie. Well, you be wrong there, my guy. It turns out she actually loved this film. She got hooked on the characters despite all of her eternal hatred for jump scares. Yes, this movie has a lot of effective jump scares, and my god did she scream. It was pretty hysterical. But despite that, she found herself falling in love with Aunt May, Peter, MJ, Harry, and the rest of the cast. While she did note some of the many flaws of the movie, she came away very happy that she was introduced to the series. It gave her a new respect for, quote, old movies. God, she's like 2 years younger than me. How is this an old movie? But anyway, at the end of the day, we both really appreciated this smaller scale story that focused on characters and relationships more than gauntlets and time travel. Don't get me wrong, we love the MCU. Like, we really love it. Like, I Am Iron Man and the snap is just iconic. But it's just refreshing to see Spider-Man truly be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. All in all, I really enjoyed revisiting this movie. If you guys haven't seen it before, or you haven't seen it in a while, I really suggest giving it a shot. If you have any other thoughts on this, feel free to leave a comment on it and tell me what you thought about it. I really love this movie, and I think you guys should too. But if not, tell me about it. I'm always up for hearing your thoughts. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please take a second to like and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel and maybe check out these Spider-Man movies, take a look at our affiliate links in the description. If you click on those, they'll take you right to the movies and it'll help support the channel. Also, keep an eye out for our next review of Spider-Man 2 that'll be dropping next week. Anyways, thanks again guys, and as always, don't forget to stay frosty.